Well, y'all, welcome back to Rolling the Bottom. I am your host, Zach Moore. Hope you are all doing well whenever you are listening to this one. We're here to talk about Atlanta. It's Wednesday afternoon, currently 7:38 p.m. I can still see the sun. It's still daylight where I'm at here in good old Lancaster, PA. Atlanta, man. Chase Elliott gets the win. But before we go that far, let's backtrack. Cory Heim wins the truck race at Lime Rock, the inaugural race at Lime Rock for any NASCAR series. And then Nick Sanchez gets to win in the Xfinity series. Didn't really get to watch much of the truck race. I was golfing with friends. Cory Heim led all but one lap. He dominated that race. The one lap he didn't lead was because on a restart, Lane Riggs, who was next to him, was able to cross the finish line, get to the finish line first. That counted as a lap led for Lane Riggs, even though he didn't really lead the lap. They're coming to a restart here, the final restart of the day, and that's how Cory Heim got screwed out of a perfect race, because on the restart, looks like Lane Riggs got a better restart. Usually on a restart, the control car gets to launch first, hit the gas first, get that jump. But I guess, maybe, I don't know what exactly happened there. Didn't watch the highlights, but that's what caused Cory Heim not to get a perfect race. But he dominated the race. I know Jordan Taylor, who was the guy from IMSA, qualified well, ran well, but I believe the final restart, a bunch of cars got off track. I guess Jordan Taylor called out Chandler Smith, because the back of Jordan Taylor's truck was pretty smashed in, and he was joking that his truck was being used as Chandler Smith's brakes, like Chandler Smith was using his truck as his brake pedal, and not Chandler Smith wasn't using his brakes well. So maybe some aggressive driving there. Tom Majeski finished second, third Giovanni Ruggiero, fourth Ben Rhodes, fifth Cam Waters, sixth Chandler Smith, seventh Josh Bilicki, eighth Brent Cruz, ninth Daniel Hemrick, and 10th Tyler Ingram. Heim won both stages. It's great to see Cory Heim get the win, because there's so many races this season that he probably should have won the race. Pocono, he was the best truck, but flat tire, debris he hits during coming to the green, he loses the races to that. There's a lot of races where he probably should have won. There's a case for him to win every single race, besides maybe the super speedways like Daytona or Atlanta. Those are only races where you could say really he probably wasn't the best truck. But the rest of these races, dude, just mistakes. This is only his fourth win. I wouldn't say mistakes at all. I should not use the word mistakes with Cory Heim, because he's been flawless. It's just that circumstances, late race cautions, late race restarts. I did see this was his third straight road course win. I think I saw something that he credited iRacing for his good racecraft on road courses. Man, I think, look, we all know what Cory Heim is. He's a Cup Series level driver that is still racing the Truck Series. Who knows what next year looks like, because I don't know where he'll go. I mean, he signed at 2011, but he still needs, I don't think there's going to be a ride available for him to go full-time next year, unless something works out with Legacy. If they're still in that lawsuit battle with Rick Ray Racing over that kind of stuff. So, man. But, yeah. I mean, there's a chance that, Cory Heim could have another year in the trucks, too. But fourth win of the season. Great to see Cory Heim be able to finish this one off. Dominant performance by Cory Heim. And then Nick Sanchez in the Xfinity Series race. I actually watched the first half of this race, but then was laying in my bed and fell asleep. And then was not able to watch the rest of this race. But I know Nick Sanchez held off Carson Quapple for the win. Gets his first career NASCAR Xfinity Series win. Second win for Big Machine Racing. That's awesome for Big Machine. They've been having a lot of good drivers come through their stable. I feel like, last year, Parker Kligerman, he was, the stuff Parker did in that car was awesome. Was never able to get that win, but great to see Big Machine Vodka Racing get their second ever win. Really cool for Nick Sanchez. He's been fast this year, man. He was fast in Texas. Just, situations on restarts maybe didn't work out his way, but he's showing a lot of speed, consistent speed for that car. I think they've gotten faster. I don't know if there's an alliance with the 48 what team. I'm not sure RCR or not. I think there is a chance maybe with RCR. Because I know there's a crew guy on TikTok that I think is through the RCR pit crew stable, and he was pitting the 48 car. So there might be a lines there with the 48 car with some speed there. Austin Hill had issues early in the race, and I think he was still able to get going, but I don't know. He didn't. I'm trying to think where he finished here. I'm look here if I can scroll. Look for Austin Hill. No. He finished 21st. 21st. I haven't really looked back on the replay or the highlights of how he was running after he got back out there. I think he had a oil pressure issue or something because his car. I think he was an electrical issue because his car kept shutting on and off. Since this point for him, he probably would have been a contender. Jesse Love was 6. He was super fast. Yeah. Well, who led the most laps in this race? It was Eric Almirola led the most laps in this race at 48 laps. The second most was Sheldon Creed, who finished 32nd. Your top 10 to go by it quickly here. First, Nick Sanchez. Second, Carson Kvapil. Third, Sam Mayer. Fourth, Connor Zilic. Fifth, Taylor Gray. Sixth, Jesse Love. Seventh, Eric Almirola. Eighth, Daniel Dye. And ninth, Kyle Sieg. And then 10th, Jeremy Clemens. That was your Xfinity Series race. I'm looking forward to this weekend with the Chicago Street Race with Xfinity. You'll have Connor Zilic and SVG going one-on-one there. That's going to be fun. I'm excited for the Xfinity Series race at Chicago. Always puts on a good show. But congratulations. I hope I'm stressing it enough. Congrats to Nick Sanchez. That's awesome for him. We'll see. He's showing speed. I'll be curious if he can continue to keep this consistent speed up, compete in those ovals too, especially because that's where he's showing the most overall raw speed, in my opinion. But to get a win here in Atlanta, Super Speedway, hold off Carson Kvapil, who Junior Motorsports has always been fast in these type of drafting, pack racing tracks. So yeah, congrats to Nick Sanchez. What a win for him. It's first ever. Come on. All right, now the Cup Series race. Chase Elliott gets the win. He snaps a 44-race winless streak on a last lap pass in turn 1. Had help with his teammate Alex Bowman. Give him a nice big push going in turn 1. Nothing Brad could do. If Brad was going to try to block that, he was probably going to wreck himself. And Elliott got past him. Bowman didn't help. Was not helping Brad. Was not going to push Brad past his teammate. And Chase Elliott gets the win. Yeah, what a race. What a win for Elliott. Elliott's been so fast this year. He's currently second in the regular season standings, only 37 points back from first place William Byron. He's been fast. He's been consistent. Really good. He currently has no finishes outside the top 20. That's how good he has. He also has no DNFs. He's also finished he has 17 races where he's finished on the lead lap. The only race he has not finished on the lead lap was back in Bristol, where we saw his teammate Kyle Larson put a whooping on that field. So this is not a surprise to see Chase Elliott get the win, especially with this race. He was super aggressive too. I know Chase Elliott is an incredible race car driver. He's fast, but he was super aggressive. He was hungry. Late parts of this race, he was passing his teammate Alex Bowman. He's like, I'm going to go and win this race. I'm not going to push my teammate. I'm going to win this race. He also, he was leading. He fell back multiple spots, and he just worked his way through the field, found the runs. Just everything worked out perfectly for him. Had a nice push by his teammate, and got the win. So a big win for Chase Elliott. 44-race winless streak. He won one race last year. Now, can he take this momentum and the speed he's having, and can he knock off a couple more wins before the playoffs, get those playoff points? Because he's second in regular season points, but he doesn't have as many playoff points. He doesn't have a stage win at all this year, I believe. So this right here could spark a fire under Chase Elliott's butt to go knock off some more wins. We will see. But overall, congrats Chase Elliott. He was also not involved in a single wreck in this race. Atlanta guys, this race was awesome. This was incredible. This was like the early early 2000s Daytona, worn out surface at Daytona. You couldn't just hammer down around Atlanta. You had to let off the gas. Handling was important. Speed was important, but your handling was important. Early in this stage one, cars were not handling well at all. Drivers were on the radios frustrated because of that. But then some drivers that were able to handle well, flew. Carson Hocevar, I think, started. I have it on my notes here. Carson Hocevar started 30th and drove the whole way up to 7th in stage one. Stage one. That was just because he had a great handling car. We saw Penske cars early in stage one. They led the first 15 laps, 1, 2, 3, 4, including the Wood Brothers car, because that is a car that is, not worked up on, but that is a car that is prepared at Team Penske. It looked like a typical Daytona and Talladega race with Team Penske up there. But, what really switched this race on its head is, we all know, the massive wreck in stage two. We had this nice long rain delay. 20-minute rain delay. Not much rain, a little bit of rain, and then I think that same lap, coming to green, bad pushing, a little, I think it was a racing deal. Like maybe Brad got into Jonathan Nemechek, I think Dylan got into Hamlin. It was just, I look at it more as a racing deal. They're all really tight there. It was 2x2 and one bad push. Communication. There's a lot going on. I don't really blame it on anyone. I think it was just more a racing deal. Guys maybe being a little too aggressive too early with those pushes, and it caused a massive wreck. I don't know how many cars were involved. I think it was like 29, 28 cars. Multiple cars got taken out. All our in-season tournament brackets were destroyed and gone like that. Now, luckily, my pick to win the tournament is still in it. Carson Hocevar, because before that, if I backtrack some more, we had an early wreck coming to the end of stage one, with Bell getting loose, cars trying to avoid Bell. Larson got sideways. Dylan, Blaney got head on into a wall. Man, with that advanced auto parts scheme, I don't know what it is with advanced auto parts and Ryan Blaney and head on into a wall at big, tracks that are pack racing. But yeah, terrible for Ryan Blaney. And that's what allowed Carson Hocevar to end up winning his matchup with them. But this first half of this race was insane. It was awesome. Drivers making incredible moves, 3 live moves. It was awesome, guys. And I thought with that big wreck, it was going to create, it was going to make the race less entertaining. But it actually made the race better. Denny Hamlin talked about less cars made, there was space. Cars could move around. I felt like the high line was, you saw a lot of cars stay higher towards the wall, the higher degree of banking. Maybe that's where their cars handled the best. But, cars would get runs. They would dive hard to the bottom of the track, trying to clear up, clear across, slide job them up. It was awesome, guys. It was incredible. The racing was just, after that big, massive wreck, that took out a bunch of contenders. The intensity stayed up. You had cars in that, there was cars in that wreck that were out there competing for the lead. It was awesome, I looked at stage one. That was Joey that got on stage. Stage two, and there was Ty Gibbs. I don't know if he was even involved in that wreck. I think he cleared it with the way strategy worked out. Gibbs was on a mission. Gibbs has some help now. Ty Gibbs is going to have Chris Gabehart up there doing strategy. Tyler Allen, the first-year crew chief, maybe needs a little help, right? Currently, all Juggers Racing's Bell, Hamlin, and Briscoe all have a win. They're all locked in. Gibbs needs a win. He's outside, I think, the top 25 in points. He needs a win to make the playoffs. So to have Chris Gabehart, who is probably, when he was crew chiefing last year, he was probably a top 3 crew chief, in my opinion, with Denny Hamlin. Now moved to the competition role, and now I think he's also made a massive difference. I feel like there's just, every weekend, Juggers Racing, they got speed with all their cars. I still think Ty Gibbs is still lacking a little bit of that, racecraft, putting a full race together. Yeah, he had a chance in this race, but just things didn't work out with the draft. Didn't really have much help. Teammates, I think the only other toilet out there was Tyler Reddick. But we'll see with having Chris Gabehart. I believe for right now, Chris Gabehart, at least for this final stretch, 8 races left in the regular season, Chris Gabehart is going to be on top of the pit box, helping out with some strategy calls with Ty Gibbs. We'll see if that makes a difference for Ty Gibbs. Can he get that win to make the playoffs? But that was interesting. Yeah, stage 2 was awesome. Who won stage 2? Let me see here. I'm just going all over the place because I'm just kind of like, yeah, Tyler Reddick. Oh, yes. Tyler Reddick, Chase Elliott at the line for stage 2, man. It was insane. Right there, bumper to bumper. It was awesome. Side drafting each other. Oh, there was 46 lead changes in this race, guys. 46 lead changes. It was awesome. I think the earlier race this year, I guess the spring fall race at Atlanta had 50 lead changes. 46. And these were legit. I believe these were legit lead changes. These weren't like lead changes through pit cycle. There were also, speaking of pit stops, there was no live green flag pit stops for at least the majority of the field. I mean, there was a couple cars that had damage that pitted, but there was no other green flag pit stops like that. There was no like massive packs that were going down pit road during green flag stops. Now it's just because of all the accidents. There were so many like single car spins. A lot of cars were involved in wrecks. In this, well, gosh, why am I even saying a lot of cars were involved in wrecks? Of course, there was a massive 25 car pileup. The end of this race was really good. I thought Brad Keselowski at the end of this race was really aggressive as well. He probably, I don't know, he was the one up front the most. It got really interesting with late race call for tires. There was a debate there. Elliott and Brad were debating on the radio if they should take tires because they weren't going to really, with so many cars taken out, you could take tires and still be within the top 10 right there. To then, if you get those new tires, get to the front because you could control your destiny more. You weren't just stuck there 3 wide. If your car is good enough, you can handle well enough, you can get back in the front. And that was a cool debate, cool discussion you were hearing on the radio. And then neither Elliott or Brad went and pitted. I know Tyler Reddick pitted there, and he was got there in the front. He had opportunities that probably could have set him up better in this race for the win. But just, everything happens so fast here where, like, if you have a run, you got to take it. You can't just, like, I think what the thing was going on there was Tyler Reddick. I think he had a run on Brad and chose not to take it. I guess he chose just to sit behind Brad and just kind of wait it out there and instead of being the leader. Because I know Alex Bowman in post-race was saying that the leader was a sitting duck. There really wasn't much the leader could do. I don't really know how to explain that, but I would agree. I felt like Brad or anyone up there couldn't really control their destiny because it was really a single file up towards the wall. And then when someone had a run, they would go to the bottom. So, like, if you were the leader, you would have to hopefully time it up well enough to block them and then hope that the outside doesn't have a run to get past. So, really, the leader couldn't control the race as much because there wasn't 2 lanes. It wasn't like you were blocking 2 lanes. You were just blocking this massive run that was coming. So it just made the racing so exciting, so awesome. Excuse me. I know a lot of people were debating, was this the best race? Excuse me. Was this the best race this year? Best race ever, whatever. Look, you gotta realize that the style of this racing allows for such a good racing because they're reduced horsepower. It's the super speedway package on a 1.5 mile high bank track. It allows them to race close because of the lower horsepower and all that. The package allows this. So I think you have to take that into account. Why the racing was so good is because the package made the cars closer. Now, look, the cars were a lot more spread out. You had to actually drive the race cars. Denny was talking about, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. was talking about how the Atlanta, it's a 1.5 miles. It's a tighter radius. It's a tighter turn. You have to use more wheel. Daytona and Talladega, 2.5 mile tracks, wider turns, more grip because you're not like turning the wheels much. There's less, the way that everything, the way the car works, you just have less grip at Atlanta because you're turning the wheel more. It's a tighter turn. The track's worn out. So when these cars get on the gas, they have to get out of the gas. I know Connor Zillage was saying that he doesn't remember him ever being wide open at all in this race. Now I know some drivers were saying that a leader could be wide open because of the clean air and all that kind of stuff. So just so much in this race, guys. So much. I'm rambling through it, guys. I saw Zane Smith was up there, dude. Alex Bowman was up there. Chase Elliott, Ty Gibbs we talked about, Tyler Reddick. There was a lot of contenders. Chris Buescher. I put in my notes here at the end of this race. It was RFK versus Team Hendrick because you had Brad leading that high line, the high lane, I guess, and Buescher was pushing Brad, and you had Bowman and Elliott work together. Actually, I think what cost Brad maybe a chance to win this race is that Buescher kind of, when he was running behind Brad, he kind of got out, lost Brad there, kind of fell back some spots, just the way the draft worked, the momentum worked. And look, maybe that's what cost Buescher choosing to stay behind Brad and not think about himself. It might have cost, if Chris Buescher his whole goal was to stay behind Brad and not worry about himself. I think he just kind of, the way, he wasn't trying to race. He was always just trying to stay behind Brad. I'm not sure that's what he was trying to do there, but that could have been the reason why he wasn't able to stay up with Brad. He kind of lost the draft with the Brad. I don't know where he finished. I have to go in the top 10 list where he finished. Yeah, he finished 9th. He was running top 4 right there. Really, there's nothing Brad can do. No one's really blaming Brad and saying, Brad, you lost this race on yourself. Like Alex Bowman said, the leader was a sitting duck. Elliott had a run. If Brad really trying to time it perfectly and trying to, block Elliott, I think Elliott would have wrecked Brad because the run was just too big. But, there's a lot of debate. If Brad was able to block the run, does that still allow, maybe it does still allow Brad to win the race, but then you still have Bowman, because there was still that outside line that maybe Brad could have killed and stalled the run of Elliott and then got back up to the top. There's a lot of what ifs in this race. I feel like, what if Reddick made that run when he needed it? But yeah, yes, I've been repeating it, guys. This race was awesome. Now, I know there was a discussion about Atlanta maybe moving to the regular season finale because of how great the racing was and how Daytona has kind of turned into 3 wide, half throttle, loud luck, can't really control your destiny, where Atlanta is, if you got a good car, your car is handling well, you can make passes, you can move around. Imagine a bunch of drivers in must-wins racing at Atlanta in the regular season finale. That would be awesome. Now, I don't think, I don't know where you move Daytona then. Do you move it where this date was, near the end of July? I know a lot of fans want July. They want July 4th Daytona. They want Daytona back on July 4th, but I don't think the city of Daytona really wants that anymore because Daytona, a high populated area. Currently, you got Daytona 500, 100,000 people or more go there. And then you have July 4th, where who doesn't want to go to the beach on July 4th? So they're already going to have a bunch of people going to Daytona just for July 4th, right? And then you have the regular season finale for Daytona where you'll have thousands of people going there. If you were to take that Daytona event and move it back to July 4th, why now you're combining July 4th and Daytona all into one? Where you're putting 2 big events into one day, in one weekend, where right now you have 3 big events going on in Daytona. You have 500, July 4th, and then the regular season finale. So I think that's why we won't see Daytona back on July 4th, and I'm fine with that. I like the Daytona adds to the regular season finale, but if they want to throw Atlanta in there into the regular season finale, I wouldn't care at all, because Atlanta would be a heck of a regular season finale. If the racing keeps up, because we all know the track is aging significantly. It's aging fast to where the less and less grip comes out on this track, where we're gonna continue to see that pack racing, that tight racing. I'm not sure. I know Stephen Hart was telling Dale Earnhardt Jr. that these cars can still put a lot more downforce on these cars to allow that close racing. So that'll be the interesting thing about, as the track continues to age, will we continue to see this pack racing? How many more years of this style racing do we have until, it ends up turning into where we have too little grip in the track, and it kind of turns into the old Atlanta, where it's worn out, drivers have to drive the crap out of the cars. We'll see. But if they want to have Atlanta racing finale, I'm all for it. So let's look at our finishing order here. We'll go through some finishers. Chase Elliott gets the win. Second, Brad Keselowski. I saw a stat. This is Brad's 4th top 10 finish in the last 6 races. Brad is running way faster. He's running much, better. He's running up there. He's competing for wins, things at Pocono. He was competitive at Pocono. So to see Brad continue to have that speed is great. He led 46 laps in this race. the second most in this race. But Brad still needs a win. He's 27 points. Brad is going to need a win to make the playoffs. And this is his one shot, and just the situation didn't work out in his favor. Really, the only other place I can see him being competitive at is in Daytona. For right now. Now, he's having a lot of speed. Dover's coming up. He ran well at Indianapolis. We have Watkins Glen, Richmond, Iowa. He's ran well at Richmond in this car. Iowa, I forget where he ran there. So I think there's still a possibility that Brad can get a win. But when it comes to a high possibility, I think Atlanta was his best shot, and it just didn't work out for him. Alex Bowman third, man. I know Alex Bowman was definitely disappointed. You know, I think there was times where Elliott could have pushed Bowman for the win, but he chose to pass Bowman late in this race. And I think Bowman's happened for Elliott, but I think Bowman's, you can tell he was deflated a little bit because this was his chance to win. He did lead 32 laps. Just didn't work out with him either. He got passed by Zane Smith there. Alex wasn't the one that said it. You know, the leader was a sitting duck. They really couldn't control the race as well as you do at Daytona or Talladega. But since that crash at Michigan for Bowman has ran really well. Ran well at Pocono. He ran well. I'm trying to think where he ran well at Mexico. Top 5 at Mexico. And now top 5 here in Atlanta. He's coming to Chicago's street race where he won. Now I still think SVG will be the guy to beat there, but I think right now Bowman's finding some consistency right now that he needs. He's okay in the playoff cut line. We'll talk about that then, but to see Alex Bowman after that massive crash at Michigan finding his groove again is great to see. Rennick, fourth. Had chances in this race to get the win, but luckily finishing fourth is great because he's, I think, plus 128 to the cut line in the playoffs. So, didn't get the win, but still a solid finish. All right, we're going to run through this a little quicker here. Eric Jones, top 5. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. at top 10, 6. 7th, Zane Smith. 8th, Ty Dillon. 9th, Chris Buescher. 10th, Carson Hocevar. Carson Hocevar had a freaking rocket ship. All these cars in here had a great run. Jones, Zane Smith, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. They all led some laps in this race. Allmendinger, Cody Ware, 13th. Ty Gibbs, 14th. Ryan Preece, 15th. B.J. McLeod, 16th. Kyle Larson was involved in a wreck, finished 17th. Michael McDowell, 18th. 19th, Cole Custer. 20th, Austin Dillon. 21st, Kyle Busch. 22nd, Bubba Wallace. 23rd, Justin Haley. 24th, Shane Van Gisbergen. 25th, Noah Gragson. 26th, John Nemechek. 27th, Todd Gillen. 28th, Riley Herbst. And then from David Starr in 29th all the way down to 40th, and Ryan Blaney, the rest of these cars were all involved in wrecks. You know, Christopher Bell, Denny Hamlin, Josh Berry, Ross Chastain, Daniel Schwartz, Chase Briscoe, Joey Logano, William Byron, Austin Center, and Corey LaJoy were all involved in wrecks. Who led the most laps? Joey Logano. He dominated stage 1. That's where he led the most laps until he was involved in that massive wreck. If we look at the playoff standings with 8 races left going into the Chicago street race, we currently have 12 winners. Chase Elliott was our newest winner. And 13th has a 128-point buffer plus 128, Tyler Reddick. 14th, Chris Buescher plus 52. 15th, Alex Bowman plus 39. And then Bubba Wallace in 16th plus 23. I would say for right now, Reddick is sitting pretty well. Buescher is still in that situation where one bad race, he's right there on the cut line. Same thing with Bowman. A bad race, a wreck out for Bowman leads him to below the cut line, or right there as well. And then Bubba Wallace, a bad race, he's below the cut line. Ryan Preece is minus 23. Eric Jones minus 49. A.J. Allmendinger minus 59. And then Carson Hocevar minus 62. And there's guys like John Nemechek, Brad Keselowski, and Ty Gibbs, all below that, all outside the top 20 in playoff standings. They're all going to be in must-win for the next 8 races and need that win. But they have all shown some speed this year. Some close to that winning speed than other, but it's going to be very exciting with 3 road courses still up in the season, a street course, Iowa, Richmond, Indianapolis, and Daytona. Who knows what's going to happen these final 8 races. It's going to be awesome. Regular season standings, William Byron is first, Chase Elliott minus 37, Kyle Larson minus 42, Denny Hamlin minus 80, and Christopher Bell also minus 80. This is a big deal because whoever wins the regular season championship gets an additional 15 playoff points. Right now, I would say Larson, Elliott are all within reach, depending on, how Byron runs. I would say Hamlin and Christopher need a lot to happen to Larson, Elliott, and Byron for them to have a chance. But who knows? 8 races is still a lot of reason for a lot of things to happen. Now, we got 2 more things I want to talk about from this podcast. The in-season tournament. We're not going to go too in-depth with it because I'll be here all day. But yeah, I got to say, guys, I love the in-season tournament. I was excited for it. But to have a line as the first race and then to see what happened where a lot of your guys that would be competing and be contenders in this tournament were all taken out. Blaney, Larson, Bell, Byron, Hamlin were all taken out because of that one massive wreck. And it just stinks. But look, it has allowed some people that we're not familiar to talking with or talking about moving on. I currently only had, I'm trying to think here, if I look at this lineup. Yep. Okay. I only had 3 correct. I had Gregson and Priest moving on. They're moving on. Hosfar and Rennick moving on. They're moving on. And Allmendinger and Gibbs moving on. Those are only pairs of drivers I had correct. The rest, I didn't have. Cindric and Gillen were moving on. They're not moving on. It's Smith and Busher. I had Keselowski moving on with Hamlin, but Hamlin's not moving on. Keselowski's moving on. I had Logano and Wallace moving on. Logano's not moving on. It's Bowman moving on. Wallace I had, so he's in. But then I had Barry and Dillon both in the next round. They're both out. It's Nemechek and Elliott. And then I had Jones moving on and Bell. Jones is moving on, but not Bell. So a lot of the guys I had moving on are not moving on. And it wasn't like I had all the favorites. I had a little mix up in there. I did pick Blaney to be eliminated by Hosfar. I do have Hosfar being my champion. So a lot of top guys to be out. And now, who knows? I think right now this has opened up the possibility of seeing a Rennick, Elliott, and Bowman, and Busher type of Final Four. Those are guys that I think are going to be the guys to beat because a lot of their heavy competition's out, and now the guys they're going to be racing with are guys they've ran much better than most of the season. So it's going to be fun to see how this all plays out. 2 road courses, a street course, and then Sonoma, and then Dover, and then Indianapolis to wrap it all up. I cannot wait, though, at all the battles this weekend. Allmendinger, Gibbs. I cannot wait for that battle. I have Gibbs moving on. That's going to be fun. Hopefully those guys are both racing up there in the top 5 because that will be a fun battle to watch. The final thing I want to wrap up here is it is the Chicago Street Race, the final, what will probably be the final Chicago Street Race for a long, long time. This is the 3rd year. NASCAR signed a 3-year deal starting back in 2023. I think it's been a massive success. Now, the weather has hurt, the event. We didn't get to have those concerts during the first year, but the second year we did. This year, I think it's the Zach Brown Band. It's a massive success. NASCAR spends millions and millions of dollars for it. The city really embraces it. Exposing NASCAR in front of new people is awesome. I'm excited. I think the racing's been really good there. Now, there's reports that NASCAR could be taking this type of street race concept and taking it to San Diego. I'm all for that. It's a warm area. It's on the West Coast, which NASCAR talks about how they love going to the West Coast so much. Now, it's going to be another far drive for teams. I mean, I hate that for teams when it comes to cost and all that, but that's what NASCAR wants to do. They feel like that's best. They want to go and expose their sport in front of San Diego. I'm all for that. I think it's going to be cool. We'll see that all comes to fruition, but I think Chicago's been great. There's talks about Chicagoland Speedway, maybe getting a date. Hopefully this Chicago event can then make fans want to go to more NASCAR events, and if you can put a race near the city like Chicago, have a race at Chicagoland, hopefully a lot of those people that went to the Chicago Street Race now want to go see another NASCAR race, but now I want to go see an oval race and go see Chicagoland we'll see how that comes to fruition. But the cool thing about in the final race at Chicago, we'll have more than 40 car entry. So that means a car will go home. 41 car entry, 40 car field makes it. One car will go home. This will be the first time that a car will not qualify besides Daytona 500 since the 2018 season, where in Texas fall race a car did not make the race. So really cool. In Chicago Street Race's final for the final, really cool for the final time of the NASCAR Chicago Street Race for probably the foreseeable future. We'll have a car not make the event. So we're going to stink for that one team. But still, it's cool to see that the NASCAR Cup Series, those team owners really value going and racing in the streets of Chicago. So really cool. All right, guys, that's the podcast. Going all over the place in this one, but excited for this weekend. I love Atlanta. Win a race, win a weekend for NASCAR in Atlanta. First race of TNT. I'll say, guys, TNT I thought was really, really good. First race was solid. Now, definitely, it wasn't as good as Prime. I don't know what it was. Maybe the post-race show just wasn't as exciting. It was kind of maybe bland. I don't know. I like Shannon Spank. I like Parker Clearman. I like Jamie McMurray. But maybe just, I liked when Junior was down there and Steve Letarte was down there. There was just maybe a little more energy. Also the fans being at the Prime stage was awesome. They didn't really have that for TNT. So I felt like the overall broadcast was no good. I thought, Junior, Adam Alexander, and Steve Letarte are incredible. I think they are in great combo. So the race felt pretty normal, but the pre-race and post-race was hard getting used to because I'm just so used to that Prime broadcast, which is so amazing. So I thought, really good. I think it was better than Fox. We'll see if they continue to improve and maybe they get better. And then I'm looking forward to giving you my full thoughts after we see the full 5 races for TNT. But overall, I enjoyed the broadcast. Not as good as Prime, but I still enjoyed it. Really good. Overall, guys, that's the podcast. I got to stop talking. Have a good rest of your week. We'll see you after Chicago. Woo!